The alleged data breach involving some unauthorized platforms holding and selling sensitive data of Nigerians has sparked significant concerns. In late June, Paradigm Initiative, a digital rights organization, revealed that personal information, including national identification numbers, bank verification numbers, and tax identification numbers, were being sold for as low as 100 naira on these platforms. In response, the National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, debunked the allegations, even though the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy said the Nigeria Data Protection Commission was actively investigating the circumstances surrounding the breach. If true, a compromise like that not only represents a major violation of fundamental privacy rights, but also raises questions about the security measures in place to protect such sensitive data. Jake Okechukwu, a technology law professor and lawyer, shares his thoughts on the issue. Jake, the recent alleged data breach has raised some level of concerns. How do you think such platforms would have managed to gain access to the NIMC database if, that information is true?
So, right, we don't know if it's true or not. And I think we need to establish the fact that this may be out of NIMC's structure, right? People think NIMC may have been negligent, but the truth is there are many ways that NIMC could have done everything right, but still could be implicated in this. And I could mention some examples. One would be, it could be an insider employee, somebody who works at NIMC or not. It could be a contractor or a third-party vendor who have access to these database, and they might abuse their privilege to sell access for money, or they might have been a subject of a cybersecurity attack. So cyber criminals these days have gotten really smart, and they use all kinds of social engineering tactics to trick employees or trick people into revealing login credentials or revealing access to this database. So it is possible that this could be a product of a cyber attack. It could be possible that there could be an insider threat. It's also possible that the security protocol could have been weak. So maybe there's a weak password, or there's a lack of encryption, or even maybe a software has expired, an outdated software. These are the things that can make a database to be vulnerable to hacking. So it could be threat from an employee. It could be an insider wanting to make money. It also could be a product of just the network of data trading today. So a lot of, when I see this X-Verify, ID Finder, some of these websites who sell this data for 100 naira, so to speak, you need to understand that there's an underground of network where stolen data is exchanged. So we don't know where this threat could come from. And I think it's important to understand that this may not be NIMC's fault. They may be negligent. I'm not absolving them. But there are many examples as to how this could be an external attack or a cybersecurity threat.
Well, Jake, NIMC, as they came out to denounce the allegations, stating that the data of Nigerians, were not compromised. However, still assuming that, that is true, are there any known vulnerabilities in the current data protection framework that could have been exploited?
Absolutely. I think our Nigerian data protection framework is strong. It's not perfect. It has some vulnerabilities that both on the technical side and on the legal side. And I would mention two on the technical side and two on the legal side. We know that a chain is only as strong as its weakest point. So data security, cybersecurity is very, very critical. Two things I think we might need to address immediately would be access control. I think in Nigeria, there are just too many personnel that have access to Nigeria's sensitive data, right? There's just too many. Second would be about encryption. So I don't know the encryption framework or infrastructure that we use across various NDAs, but we need to ensure that we have adequate encryption to prevent unauthorized access, right? So from a technical perspective, both data at rest and data in transit, whichever one, we need to ensure they're adequately encrypted so that we don't have these breaches happen just quite often. And this would happen again. We will keep seeing more of these examples. And on the legal side, yes, we have the Nigerian Data Protection Act, which is quite robust. But if you look at Section 39, that talks about the implementation of appropriate technical organization measures. It doesn't explain what appropriate means, right? So the act needs to be more specific on the guidelines and standards. The technical standards and guidelines need to be explicit. For example, it doesn't talk about how regular we should do security audits, how regular should we do penetration testing. These things are very important. It also doesn't talk about the response mechanism in detail. So it's a bit broad, and it needs to be quite articulate in that in that regard. The second, from a legal perspective, is about cross-border transfer of personal data. I think in Nigeria, we transfer a lot of our data to various recipient countries and organizations without adequate, broad frameworks for this cross-border protection of our data. So I think we need more detailed, more stringent frameworks to access data protection to recipient countries and other organizations, because this could also be an international attack. This could be a foreign organization selling or using our data to make small cash.
Jake, I'm going to take us back a bit because earlier you spoke about access control and cross-border data transfer. Now, the vetting process for third-party vendors and partners is quite crucial in matters like this. What recommendations would you make to the government to strengthen data protection standards?
I mean, we need. I don't know what the agreements or memorandum of understanding between various MDAs and third-party vendors are, but these service level agreements, these data processing, data sharing agreements, need to be quite robust. I think they need to, again, I don't know, I've not seen any of them, but there needs to be a much stronger conversation, and these agreements should cover instances for data breaches like these. Where are Nigerian data stored? Who has access to that storage or cloud platform? What happens where a breach happens? How do we delete data? How do we anonymize data? These are terms in the agreement that needs to be fleshed out. And I think very importantly, when a third-party vendor is dealing with the data set of Nigerians, right? That third-party vendor, even though they're a company, should not see themselves as only a business-making venture or like a company. They must recognize that we hold them with the same account that will hold any department, ministry, or agency, because at that point in time, they are serving and holding data sets of like millions of Nigerians. So I think the agreement, the understanding between these third-party vendors needs to be more concrete for them to understand the sensitivity of their position in the ways that they handle our data, the ways that they share it, the ways that they store it, the ways that they even move it across one party to the other.
Well, Jake, I'm sure you agree with me that there is always a risk of human error and insider threats leading to data breaches. So how can citizens avoid giving sensitive data to unauthorized websites themselves?
The Nigerian Data Protection Act, organizations who have the mandate to collect, to process, to store, to transfer data have the high responsibility to meeting these protection standards. But of course, citizens can play their own role in their own very small ways. Citizens should make sure that they ensure that when they are when they're online, the websites that they're engaging in are like legitimate websites. They should look at the URL, ensure that they have the adequate security certificates. People in Nigeria just share personal information as if it's daily bread. Like someone is applying for a job, they ask you for your passport, driver's license, you send it on WhatsApp, you send it via email. We need to be cautious with how we share personal information, both to employers, employees, even to organizations themselves. And of course, the various security advice, use very strong passwords. Consider using a password manager, use two-factor authentication. You see the way people are hacking people's WhatsApp here and there. So 2FA is very, very important. Unfortunately, this is going to be quite common in our time. In this day of technological revolution, things like cybersecurity attacks are going to be quite common. I think the fears for a lot of Nigerians is somebody going to clone my information? Does this mean that my security is at risk? So I think we need to also assure Nigerians, like NIMC released a statement saying that they comply with the ISO standards for information security management systems. I think people need to trust organizations, both government and private, that their data is secure. But citizens have to do their part. Use strong passwords. Don't share personal information. Don't overshare. Use two-factor authentication. And as much as possible, if you don't need your data in an organization anymore, ask for that data to be deleted. It's your right. It's in the act.
Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives with us on Tech Trends, Jake Okechukwu, a technology law professor and lawyer.
Thank you very much, Olayemi, for having me on your show.